Okay. Um, Today, what we're going to talk about is the grants program that we have at the United Methodist Church. I mean, at the United Methodist Foundation. Um, we're going to explore why the grants ministry exists. We're blessed to have Jim Menser here with us today. So, Jim, if I don't get it exactly right, I'll invite you to help me to update it. We're going to talk about why, what its purpose is. What is the why of the grants ministry? Who can apply? And when are grants available? Because we have a number of grants that are offered. And lastly, where do we begin the process? If you're interested in applying for a grant, where do you begin the process? And it's not at the top of the application, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. I want to start with why. What is the purpose of the Foundation Grants Ministry Program? And it's simple. It's to foster vital, strategic, and impactful initiatives within and beyond the local UMC faith communities of New England. Our goal is to source and to resource congregations as they strive to live out the dreams that God has placed within them. It may be something very small or maybe something much larger of which you just need some help. But this is one of the ways that the foundation is able to deepen the partnership that we have with all of you. And so as you're going through this, keep the thought in mind of why the grants ministry exists. Now, if you have that ability and you want to look at two different screens at the same time, the first place, if you want to see what's happening, I invite you to go to the Foundation UMC website, and you'll find it there at the top of the page. Then if you go see where the yellow box is, it says what we do. If you hover over that, click on that, it will take you to the grants ministry page. It will show you the grants ministry page. If you click on that spot, it will take you here. And again, as you can see, this is the picture that you see before you is an Engaging Communities grant that we gave in 2023 to the United Church in Morrisville, Vermont. And they have a morning breakfast that they offered into the community, and they have a lot of great partnerships with community agencies and the sort that goes with it. And you can see we're very clear. Again, the reason for the grants ministry is to foster vital, strategic, and impactful initiatives within and beyond the local UMC faith communities of New England. And then, to continue our search, if you go down the page, you'll see some stories of folks who have received grants in the last year. Take their 3, 4, 5-minute videos. We invite you to listen to what they've done and how they've done it. Again, it's a great way to see what's happening. And then down at the very bottom of the page, you will see this image, grant opportunities. You can see that we have 6 of them. 5 are available to any and all. The Gordon T. Hersey Fund is available just to churches on the South Shore of Massachusetts. But you can see over there on the right side, the arrow pointing down, where I put the yellow box. And if you click on that, it will take you to this. And on that page, you will find again, reminding people why we do this, the annual grants ministry information, something you should read before applying. We also have a short video, and this video may replace that one eventually, but it gives you another overview of how to apply for an annual grant. And then there's the annual grant application, which we have made to be a fillable PDF, and also a common budget. This is a part, oftentimes folks, when they fill out an application, they'll just put, well, this is the money that we need to support the program that we're dreaming about or that we want to expand upon. We ask you to use the budget, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But it allows you to include in-kind gifts. It allows you to show that it's part of a bigger program, because one of the things that's important for us as we partner with congregations is that that we have a commitment from both sides, things that will make it possible for you as a church to do the work, and also how we can partner with that to expand and multiply it. So that's what you'll find if you go back up up to this, you'll see where it says engaging communities. Again, if you hit that arrow, it will allow you to show you what's underneath that. And there's the annual grant. And so the question is then, where do we start? Oftentimes it's just sitting down. All right, we've heard that the foundation has grants available. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the application and send it in. But it starts somewhere else first.
Think of the phrase, how do I know? They always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's, you know, it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm gonna show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor, you know, can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now, right now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Okay, here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful.
When you know why, your what becomes more impactful. What are we doing? Where we want to apply for a grant. Why are we doing it? One of the ways to do that process is some terms that we use in our new Activate program. It's called discerning community needs, define effective ministry responses based on what is available, not what we wish we had, not what we think we can get, but what's available based on what's within your community. If you haven't done any asset mapping to figure out what gifts and graces people have, or to see what they have, maybe someone's got an amazing truck that they're willing to share, but if you don't ask, the food cupboard doesn't have the ability to get the food to the people as much as they'd like to. So discern, define, design an approach to address the need, including developing community partnerships. We'll talk more about community partnerships in just a few minutes. And then deploying that project. When you fill out an application, when you apply for grant funding from the foundation, this is a process that you can take, but what does that look like? Well, ask yourself these questions, or the group that you're working with, and it's good to work with a group. Some of you have already done it. Some of you I have talked with as you were going through the process, because I'm more than willing to help a congregation that's interested figure out, all right, we've got this idea, but what do we look like? And so ask yourself, what is your faith community's vision? What is your mission statement? And what's your why? Well, part of who we are as United Methodists is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. But why are we doing that? That's our what, but why? Is it to bring joy? Is it to share the love of Christ? Is it to enable people to experience the same grace of God that we've experienced in our lives? And then after you've asked yourself your why, how do you live out your why? What are some of the projects that you're already doing that live out your why? And what do you need to further live out your why? And part of living out your why is matching it to the needs of the community. In our Activate program, Kristen talks about finding out what are the needs of the community, not what we perceive to be the needs, but really what are the needs. That involves conversations with leaders. That involves conversations with people that you meet when you're walking down the street. It's conversations with your neighbors. So what do you need so how do you live out your why? What do you need to further live out the why? We've got this great program. We wish it could expand. And then decide on a specific action. And how does it accomplish the kingdom's work? How does what we want to do bring the good news of Christ into the world? And then a technical question that we ask is, what will your faith community contribute? Sometimes it's time, there's time, financial resources. If your community believes strongly enough in it, there will be funds available. It may not be that you have any money in your budget, but have you talked to the person who really loves that type of work? They or some of their friends might have some money or some other gift that they can share. And as you're looking at your project, what is the church going to put into it? Who are the partners that you'll need? Well, the foundation might be a partner. What about other congregations? What about individuals within the community that you can, in your conversations about discovering a need within the community, they could become a partner? What is the projected impact of your project? Well, we hope to. Well, give it some serious thought. And how are you going to measure that impact? And then one of the questions that's also important for us for the grants ministry, you can get most of the grants you can get for 2 years in a row on either 2 different programs or an expanding program. But what happens in the 3rd year when you can't? How will the project be sustained after the grant? You may not have it completely down, but you may have some ideas. How does it fit into the requirements of the available foundation grants? Remember, just a few minutes ago, I showed you the foundation grants page, and you go down to the bottom, and in each one of those areas, you'll find out what the expectations and the requirements are for each of those grants. And then you apply for the grant that supports your mission dream to help it become a reality. And you reach out to Dave Abbott and you say, all right, I've got this. I want to submit it. Can you look at it first? Sure, I'm more than happy to. And I'll write back with questions. I've graciously been working with the grants ministry since I was hired in 2016, so 8.5 years, almost 9 years. And I understand what the foundation is looking for, but also what the grants committee is looking for. If you and I had one of those phone calls, chances are I probably asked you to stretch it just a little bit. if you were looking for the ability to live stream so that the people who are in your congregation could participate, even though they can't come into the church, I would ask, what about outside of your congregation? How are you going to use this to reach people in the community around you? How will you use this to offer Bible studies? Or how will you offer this if you're in a community where they use your building a lot? How might some of the folks in your building who come in and use your building use your live streaming so that they can benefit people around them? Those are the type of questions that we ask that would be next. And so what are some of the things that have worked? Well, we've got, as I mentioned, there are 6 grants that we have. We just finished our Lexington UMC Social Justice Fund grants, and they're a maximum of up to $2,500. And this is the one grant where you don't have to be United Methodist. We want you to be addressing the roots of social injustice. And you can see there the different groups that received it and the program that they were working with. I'll let you take a moment to look over those. Some are, they're, as you can see, they're all over the New England, though there are a couple of areas that we don't always get a lot of grant applications, and I would love to figure a way to change that. We also have the Gordon T. Hersey Fund. Now, these are awarded to just churches on the South Shore of Massachusetts. Gordon T. Hersey was someone who believed in the ministry of the church. And all he wanted was the money to be able to go to places where there was a need. You can see there that there were 3 churches that received grants as well. And whereas most grants you receive 1 check, this program, you get checks on a quarterly basis. So for 4 quarters in a row, you get that. Rapid response grants. These are grants where that throughout the year, you may have come up with this amazing idea, this amazing thought, and you can't wait until the annual grants are being offered, which has a deadline of May 15th. And so you send in, and these grants are up to $2,500. You can see where they were awarded in 2024. One of the things that you'll notice is that some of the folks who are on this grant are on the other grants, because they're allowed to do so except with the Rapid Response Grant and the annual grant. And we'll talk about the Engaging Communities Grant in just a minute. So you can see some of the needs. These are, you've come up with an idea, you've described, you've got your whys, you've got your way, your hows, your whats, and you've sent in for winter needs, for yoga ministry. Talk about a stretch, right? And then, so those are your annual grants, and you can apply for those year round. The annual grants have a May 15th deadline, 5 o'clock. And these are the groups that received them in 2024. Community music programs, accessibility, meaningful meals, Vibe and Verse, monthly youth group program. Again, these are opportunities that you have within the annual grant program for which you can apply to receive money. And if you've got a thought and you want to know more about it, then give me a call and we can talk about it. The one that and again, you can get the information on the website. The one I really want to talk about today, though, is the Engaging Communities Grant. This was something that was created in 2023. And the goal of this grant is to offer up to $10,000 a year for up to 3 years for a church and partners who are doing transforming work in their communities. What this looks like is, what is required is that there's a United Methodist Church, and they are striving to partner with other United Methodist churches in the area, as well as community partners. In 2023, we had a program up in Skowhegan, Maine, as well as in Morrisville, Vermont, and they had developed relationships with a number of agencies, government and city agencies within their communities, as well as some congregations. And together they were doing transforming work. They were offering a food bank, they were offering meals, they were offering counseling. Up in Morrisville, you could go there and receive your shots, because what they found is for a lot of folks who need working with the agencies, they'll be there every day for breakfast, but they might not make it to the agency to get their flu shot, or back in the day to get their COVID shot. So those are the things that's important. So you click on the engaging communities. And here's the description. You can see where it says multi-year grant ministry information. Read through that. And remember, as you're getting ready to fill out this application, this is your one time to tell the foundation your story. So don't just fill in with a few sentences and yada, yada, yada. They'll understand. Tell us your story. The applications are are fillable, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. And what we invite you to do is you have a limit, to a certain limit as to what you can write in there, but tell us a story, share your passion. If you start with your why, that helps us to understand more of what you're trying to achieve. Does that make sense? And so there's that. And here again, in 2025, applications are due on July 1st. Again, up to $10,000 for up to 3 years. You don't have to apply for $10,000 if you've got a program that's got, only needs $6,000 or $8,000. Don't expand it up just so that you can get the 10,000, but get what you need. And again, here are the two groups, the Community Resource Hub and the Community Unity Place. In 2024, we had a number of applications, but none met the expectations. This is not a grant that we give out just to give out, but rather we make sure that it happens. If you look on the picture beside it, you can see the multi-year application information. Through this program, the foundation will support new and established collaborations between churches and other community partners. Its multi-year design is intended to develop deeply rooted partnerships addressing the challenging ministry areas such as the opioid crisis, social justice, racial inequality, climate change, and more. One of the things that we found is, again, as people would call in, we could talk about that and address it. This is important. Our hope is that by investing $30,000, up to $30,000 over 3 years, the program will have developed such a strong partnership that sustainability is not a question. There are at least one of the recipients, actually both of them received grants from other people as well that enable them to do the work that they're trying to do. So part of what you may put into if you're looking at engaging community grants, part of what you may do is spending that first year to further develop your relationships. When you apply, you need to have good partnerships. But at the same time, what you also need to do is be open to expanding that, to see what it looks like. Cast the vision, multiply over and over again. This is what I was talking about with the application. You can see over on the left side that they ask you to put the stuff in. What I would suggest to you is that you click on the link that you'll find on the grants ministry page. Open up, so the document will open, download it onto your computer, fill in the information, and then save the final copy to your computer so that it will be submitted with all of the other information that is required in one PDF document. We ask you to do that. You can send it in, but then by email or slow mail, but we would prefer it if you would send it in by a PDF. If that's a struggle, let me know. We'll make it happen. So you complete it. It will tell you when you're applying for it, what is a complete application. If something is missing, I'll send it back to you and I'll say, this is what's missing. If you're applying for an annual grant or a engaging communities grant, I would invite you to send it to me at least a week in advance. I'll go through it and I will let you know if something's missing. Otherwise, I'll send you an email that confirms that we have received your completed application. If you look over on the right, you can see what the budget looks like. You can see where there's places for people who have grants that you've received, partners that you have, as well as in-kind support and other income. Please let us know. Your having 5 or 6 grants will not deter us from awarding a grant unless you already have enough funds for the work that you're doing with the grants that you've received. Over on the far right of this document, you'll see the big blue block. That's where you can put in your information. We have 3 grants outstanding. We should know about grant 1 on July 15th, grant 2, September 15th. It lets us know it's a communication between us. Down below the income is where you put all the expenses. There's far more than 3 lines there. And sometimes we have to figure a way. You may have to condense some of your expenses so you can't put them down individually. Like if you're doing live streaming, there's about a bunch of hardware that you need. What you would do is you would put computer links or something like that so that you can put all of your expenses on this area. You'll notice up at the very top that the first thing we ask you for is a church contribution. Again, you may be limited in what you can do, but if this project is something that people are really passionate about, you may find some contributors. We had 5 people who each gave $200. That's $1,000. Let me know, or let us know in the application that it was 5 individuals who gave $200, not just the church pulling it out of your bank account. It won't sway the vote, but it will certainly show that there's a much wider interest in what's happening. Part of the application process is also 2 letters of support. One comes from the ag board of your congregation. The application was presented to our ed council, our leadership committee, or whatever you call it, and we support it 100%. And this is the commitment that we've made. The other comes from your district superintendent. I would ask that if you're going to ask, you need a letter of support from your district superintendent, please give them 3 weeks. So if you know ahead of time, and give them some ideas as to what you want in the letter. Don't ask them to just copy it, but just take what's in the letter and they can add a few little comments. But give them, they're busy folks, so give them as much time as you can. So if you're applying July 1st, let your DS know ahead of time and say, if we get it to you, we get you the request and here's the application by June 4th. Is that going to be enough time for you? And they'll tell you. They might be on vacation and you'll want to do it earlier, but you have to have both letters. And if your DS isn't available, but they know that you're looking for one, they can reach out to another district superintendent, or they can put together, but they cannot, but you have to have somebody from the conference who supports that. All right. Now, you may be saying, how do we know if our program works? This is a scoring rubric that was put together by the grants committee. And it gives you an idea of what is important for the Engaging Communities grant. And I would share that it's also important for any of the other grants that you apply for, though not as intentionally or with as much expectation. And you can see that there's a scoring range between insufficient all the way up to exemplary. And be honest, as you're looking at it, on your budget, is a budget within the guidelines that includes a reasonable budget justification and narrative? Did you tell us why you're spending the money in your Engaging Communities grant and how you're going to spend it? Well, then under budget and feasibility, it's adequate. And so that gives you a 2. The items that are really important is they're all important, but alignment with the purpose of the foundation, as well as the connection with church and community partnerships. This is an area that we have to grow, and it enables us to develop connections. It might be an excuse for us to reach out to our neighbor UMC churches and say, hey, I want to do this. Will you be a part of it with me? And then we can do some stuff together as a church. You see on the very bottom, you get an idea of how your grant is going to fare. Just because you get 10 to 12 points doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a grant, but it gives you a much better chance. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So here's the slide that you all been looking for. Questions. I ran through the process very quickly. All of the details about each particular grant are found on the grants ministry page. And the one that we feel most important about, the Engaging Communities grant, there's the details there. We went through specifically what is needed to apply for one of those grants. And if you've got an idea, it's not too early to start talking with your leadership or to ask me some questions that I could, or ask for some questions that I might share that your group can work on. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do, I don't know if there were any questions that came through the chat at this point. But what I'm going to do is I'll stop sharing this. Bring us all back to where we can see each other. Let's see. And do you,
There is
what
nothing in
questions you
the
might have?
chat.
Nothing in the chat. All right. So what questions might you have? And this can be about a particular item. It can be, or something in general. You know, if you've got an idea, share it with me.
I have a question.
Michelle.
So currently, I've partnered with the Blackstone Valley Prevention Council and the Town of Lincoln's Prevention Council, and we've created events that we do each month. Like in early March, on March 10th, we are doing a community conversations where we come in and you know, we talk about the what impacted our life, past, present, you know, things like that. What are our concerns, things like that. And then the two places that I've partnered with, they're experts in their field. They're degreed in psychology and things like this, and they're going to provide coping mechanisms and resources and things like that. So if I heard you correctly, it could be a collaboration with another church or with organizations within our community that support things like, because we're also going to be doing the opioid crisis and things like that. Is this, in this brief explanation?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I would say it's not or, but it's and. So if there's a
really.
couple, you know, so that I don't know where your community conversations are being held, but you might offer them outside in a more community or central area, or move them around if you had other churches that were involved. But based on what we did last year, as we were discerning with the applications that we received for engaging communities, it wasn't an either or, it's a both and. Part of what one of the recipients who received a grant in 2023, an Engaging Communities grant, did was they said, these are our plans to engage with other churches. And they were specific about that, or offering to go to the churches or to go to the district and share what they've been doing and how they've been doing it, and inviting people to look at how they could do so in their areas, and then to be a resource, that type of thing. So that would be important, but yes, that would certainly be something to explore. Other thoughts or questions?
Well, David, I'll ask a question. Out on Long Island, the biggest need in that community is affordable year-round housing. Increasingly, homes are being bought up as second homes, summer homes, and it's almost impossible for a young family with children to contemplate living on the island itself. So the community has created a year-round affordable housing committee that has begun to work on plans to perhaps have the town itself build some housing. But it has our faith community at Evergreen thinking about the possibility of converting the parsonage, which is not being used by the pastor and won't be in the future, convert that into affordable year-round housing. So yes, we would be receiving rent from it, but it would be well below market rate, with the intention that it would be a way for us to help bring a family out to the island that otherwise couldn't afford to do so. Is the fact that there is the rent potential there a detriment if we were to apply for a grant to begin the necessary work of rehabbing the parsonage? And the very first things on our list would be a new roof and replacing all the windows.
So as I think about what you've just said, one of the things that I'm thinking of either an annual grant or a rapid response grant. And the idea that what you're asking for is seed money
Yes.
that you could then use to raise additional funds. Maybe there's an island gathering or whatever, or a campaign to raise additional funds to get this work done. Now, how will the program be sustained? By the rent that's paid. So I would see that as a positive. And especially telling the story, the why that you want to do it is provide affordable housing.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really interesting as well. And so you'd want that to be a part of it. So no, I would, that would be great, especially if you talked about it being below market rate. There's some real good possibilities there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Others. Nizi, I'm going to put you on the spot just for a quick second. I said 3 weeks. Is that enough time? If they, or let you know ahead of time before then that they're going to be they're looking at applying for a grant and then giving you 3 weeks before a deadline to write the letter and send it back to them. Does that sound fair? You're on mute right now.
Yes, I believe that would be a good time. And the feedback that I got with regards to filling out the application is that there is just, it's a long application to fill out with, we're not complaining about the money, with the amount of money that they are applying for. So maybe is there a way that you can digest, or this is already the digested part of the application that you have, so that the application will not be too tedious for
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, so there's two purposes for the grant application. One is to apply for the money. And I guarantee $2,500 now is not worth as much as it was in 2016 when I became a part of the foundation. The other part is to do the why. Because as they're filling out the information, the first and second questions are what is your vision? And then the other one is what is the program? In there, we want the churches to think about the why. But I will carry that back to the grants committee that we can take a look at it and say, are all of these essential? And then the final question on most of the grant applications is, what are your sustainability plans? And so there have been times when someone hasn't received a grant because they didn't give us a sustainability plan. Well, let me rephrase that. Their grant was not awarded until they submitted a sustainability grant. And it may not be a huge thing, but it's important as well. And the measuring sticks, how will you measure success or impact? That's based on you and the applicant. And so again, it gets them to thinking, so what would really be helpful? What would really show us that this is working? And that it's worth it for us to be making this application or to continue with the program. So yeah, but I will carry that back as well. Thank you. Others today.
Based on what I'm listening to, I am now thinking to pitch something, even though the organization that I'm representing is not, a Methodist organization. It's a not regular nonprofit.
Okay.
I've been coaching them on their fundraising techniques, including how to diversify. And I hear you talk about sustainability, which is very important when I'm coaching these organizations that I get affiliated with. This organization is in East Boston. The program is a wraparound, cradle to career program. The constituency comprises of mostly Latin American immigrant population that is North Africa and such. Very poor. They have some housing issues, even though some are provided housing. Again, with gentrification, that is also beginning to become a problem. Now, while I have felt comfortable starting with their initial income that was received, $300,000 from the philanthropic initiative, I'm trying to leverage, I'm trying to leverage that and bring in the next tranche of another 300,000 and keep it going. What that means is that I'm also looking at organizations or foundations that are a good match, which with guidelines that will do the cradle to career type of fund, granting proposals that
Yep.
you could submit. As I'm here right now, we're actively in the throes of doing that. So I'm thinking that if it's possible, is it okay for me to suggest to the organization, ED, that they make a connection with the Methodist Church in the community and try to maybe piggyback on getting some help through that route?
I would certainly, yes, especially if you're talking about a Raptor sponsor, an annual grant, making that connection, because personally, and one of the things that would excite me is that one of our congregations would then be involved in a community program. Separate from connecting with the church is the Lexington UMC Social Justice Grant program. It appears that you're trying to deal with the root challenges, and doesn't come until the fall. But that's a possibility. And I would be intrigued to get more information about the program, to see how it might better fit into some of the other things that we do as well.
That's
So that,
great.
yes,
So are you open for me to email you later on, just some kind of abstract?
sure, that would be great. And
Thank you
I
so
would be
much.
able to determine if that's helpful or not. Yes.
Wonderful.
If
Thank
we
you
can
so
help, if we can partner anywhere else besides applying for a grant. So that would be great.
I appreciate your help.
Oh, my pleasure. Our pleasure. Other thoughts or questions? So again, I have gotten everything from an email that says, I'm thinking about this, but I'm not really sure how it works, to here's a completed application. Would you review it? This is stuff that I love to talk about. I love to help from the very beginning, before I was even a part of the foundation. Their goal has been to support the ministry and mission that God has called local congregations and the conference to do. And we will work very hard because we want to give the money away. And we just know, and some folks have never written grants before. We're a great test. Try it out. We had one individual who wrote a grant. They asked for a grant writer, and they were able to turn, it was either $2,500 or maybe it was the $5,000 grant, into over $100,000 of grants. And when you're applying and you can say, we've received a grant from the United Methodist Foundation of New England, and you're saying it on another application, sometimes that will let them know that you're serious and you've done the work, and it will work to your benefit.
David, something that you didn't mention in the beginning, but I think might be helpful for these folks to know, is where the money is actually coming from. When we say it comes from the foundation, that's a big nebulous, amorphous kind of an organization. But truth of the matter is, this is an annual request that goes out to the friends of the foundation. So tell them more about that.
Certainly. We have at the end of each year, we have an annual appeal that goes out to our board of directors, our staff, which for the last few years has been 100% supportive of the program. And we've also had some individuals who have felt so passionately about the grants ministry program that they put together endowments, and we use the income and interest that comes off of those endowments. We don't always put out that we're looking for funds to support the various ministries. But if you hear about it, or if you're thinking in November, oh, I wish that I had a place that I could put money that would provide transformational opportunities for congregations across New England, give me a call. And on the other part, I will say that the foundation over the last 3 or 4 years, when we began the Engaging Communities, has said, not only are we going to support it with money that comes in from other folks, but they've made sizable investments into the Engaging Communities grant. We recognize how much those cost if we give out 2 a year, but we are passionate enough about it that we want to do so as well. So thank you, Jim, for that reminder. Other ideas, thoughts? Kristen's going to put my email in the chat. Feel free to send me a note. You know, this is the best webinar I've ever been to, and I have a question, or just I have a question. That works as well too. Thank you all for entrusting us with this time. We hope it's been beneficial. It's more of an overview. It's an opportunity just to get an idea of what's going on. Further conversations are welcome. And they can even send it to Kristen or to myself, and we'll take care of it. We'll respond as quickly as we can. May God's peace and blessings be upon all of us as we walk through this time in our world. God bless. Bye-bye.